and welcome to American Friction, the US politics podcast where everybody knows your name, and we are really glad you came. I'm Jacob Jarvis.
And our troubles are all the same. I'm Chris Jones.
And today, it's just us two, but we have got a special guest filling in for Nicky McCann Ramirez, fresh from his time in Washington, D.C. Elon, welcome to the podcast. Not really. We aren't Gavin Newsom, so we're not going to have that guy on. But seriously, we have got a very special guest coming up. The one and only Molly Jong-Fast of Vanity Fair and Fast Politics fame. Chris, first though, what are we going to be talking about?
Well, I'm glad you asked. On this show, we discuss Musk's departure from Washington and a week of ups and downs from Trump where he's been extra nasty to his enemies and extra nice to his mates.
Nasty and nicey. Plus, there is more. We'll wrap up other stories you might have missed and answer your listener questions. But before that, Chris, it is that time of the week. Ask just me a silly question, I guess, and then I'll ask it back.
Okay, that sounds good to me. Well, Trump's been pardoning some random reality TV stars. We'll get on to that later. I'm really not sure who they are, to be honest. So my question to you is around reality TV. What's your favourite reality TV show? And if you could pardon a reality TV character of your choice, protect them from anything, who'd it be then?
This is quite hard for me to answer because I watch a lot of reality TV. And some of it, I would say, is fine, wholesome. Some of it, I'm not too proud to say, feels quite exploitative of the people on it. And that's, what happens with reality TV. So I'm going to go for a wholesome answer, which is a bit of a lie. But I'll say Love on the Spectrum is good. It's on Netflix for anyone who wants to watch it. It's pretty heartwarming. I think they handle it all delicately and in a nice way. And there's a person on that called Tanner who is he is incredibly enthusiastic and incredibly smiley. And there's videos, he's obsessed with Jack Black and he got to meet Jack Black.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this, yeah.
He's so happy about it. And I just see and think, yeah, I'd protect him at all costs.
Yeah.
He's just a really nice guy. But yeah, that's my lie.
And you'd protect Jack Black as well?
Jack Black less so.
Why?
Not that far. It was just all a bit lame, wasn't it, when he kicked the other guy out and stuff? And
well, you can't advocate for killing other people.
Yeah, well,
and the other guy's Kyle Gass. How dare you get it wrong?
Yeah, I don't know. Tenacious D. I don't know. They're a bit.
Saw them live.
It's a little bit Rick and Morty feeling these days.
What's wrong with Rick and Morty?
You'll learn. One day you'll realise what's wrong with Rick and Morty. Chris, you've been Googling this hard, and I know you have also been worried about being cancelled, so...
That's the difficulty with reality TV, is that
you wanted to say Jeremy Kyle.
I didn't. That's a blatant and disgusting lie. How dare you? But when you look at the reality TV shows that we all used to watch... You've got to wait carefully because quite a few people have been cancelled and you can't like them anymore, which is fair enough.
I mean, that is essentially every man on screen. You have to kind of Google and think, have they been cancelled or not?
I used to watch Geordie Shore, YI. That was a classic back in the day.
It's great.
But I don't think I can say I'd save any of it. They've all grown up.
Scotty
Some
T.
of them have grown up.
You'd say Scotty T.
Nah, he is a legend.
Don't be worried
now. Not in
the
right way, of course. I don't condone anything that he did on that show.
Sure, exactly.
Apart from Get Ripped, which is
that's I think he was ripped before. But anyway,
but
so
seriously,
you lie as well then and tell me.
Seriously though, it's Queer Eye.
Okay,
I really like Queer Eye. I think it's good, wholesome in the same way that I think Love on the Spectrum is. But I would save Anthony Porofsky.
Okay, don't know who that is.
Have you seen Queer Eye?
No.
Oh, come on, man.
I just know they do a lot of French tucking.
Yeah,
that's all
they
I know
do.
about it.
Yeah, they do. They do a lot of that. They rebuild people's lives. But Anthony Porofsky's, he's just a nice guy. And he was on Off Menu recently, another podcast, which is very good. Not as good as this one.
My disclaimer, I'd say, is unfortunately more of the reality TV I watch, they're not having a great time.
Yeah,
the ones where they're having a really great time is less the reality TV I watch.
Shall we have a great time?
Let's do it.
Let's get back to reality. This is American Friction.
The reality TV
show. The reality TV show.
Yeah. Before we begin, we've got a message for you. A message that we share most weeks, but this week it's particularly important because I just feel like it is. We really need your support to keep the show going. We do. And the show will end if you don't support it. That's just true. That is just the way it is. If you all stop listening and you stop supporting, that's what will happen. How you can support us in the best way, the most direct way, is by going to patreon.com/American Friction.
What is it?
It's patreon.com/ / is very important. Only one. I've done multiple now, but it's only one. Patreon.com/American Friction, where they'll get the episodes ad-free. They'll get bonus content. Chris speaks to people.
I do.
And he's quite friendly.
Pretty cool merch on there as well. So get involved.
There is. So yeah, that's patreon.com/American Friction. It's from £3 a month, I believe, is the starter, the entry tier. And then it goes up and up and up. You can give us as much money as you like. If you can't give us money, we get that. You can rate and review us, and just make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Now, let's get on to it. We're going to go and speak with Molly Jong-Fast.
That'll be lovely.
Molly Jong-Fast, welcome back to American Friction.
Oh, the best. Always a delight to be on with you two.
It's always a pleasure to have you. First question, I ask you this, and you always make fun of me for asking you this.
Please.
How are you?
I'm great. I just am so good. Those 5 hours of sleep I got last night, just like recharged and refreshed, ready to face the day.
Yeah, and it's a quiet time at the moment. Let's get to what seems to be the big news at the moment. Over here, at least, that we're spotting one Elon Musk. He's gone. But is he properly gone? Because he still seems to have some sort of influence and ear of Donald Trump, even if he's not officially doing so.
So this is the $10 million. Oh, no, let me rephrase that. $10 trillion, because that's the savings that Doge found by firing everyone. Yeah. The best part was when they fired the air flight people, the air traffic controllers. We don't need them. They are woke. Look, man, Elon Musk. Okay, is he gone? So here's the question. Is he gone? Are Trump and he really on the outs? You can't believe anything you hear these people say, which is why we're in this position, right? Do I think Elon Musk is gone? Maybe. I do think that Elon Musk's people, you'll remember, there are all of these very young, quite politically right-leaning, I think is an understatement of the year, programmers who are in different branches of government. People like, you'll remember Big Balls, who has the cauliflower haircut and likes to frequent far-right internet sites. That guy, I think he's in the Department of the Interior, maybe. I mean, you have guys like this, ideological zealots who are computer programmers in many different branches of the federal government. So while Elon, again, we don't know because nobody tells the truth in this administration, right? I think that's a very generous assumption. But maybe, Elon is making movements to leave. There are certainly his legion is everywhere.
Well, with Elon going, this is a bit of a better the devil you know question, I suppose. In terms of what's going to happen with Doge now, and are the new people who are going to be in charge potentially worse, like characters such as Russell Vought and people like that? And if not worse, as in more horrible, perhaps actually just more shit at doing the job they're trying to do.
So here's what I would say. Two things. One, Doge was never anything, is my guess. We don't really know what Doge was because we don't have the reporting to know, right? We just know what they tell us, which is that they got billions and trillions of dollars. No, now they have billions of dollars. No, now they have millions of dollars. So we know that they had to reinstate a lot of the programs they cut. We know ideologically there was waste, fraud, and abuse, but most of the waste, fraud, and abuse was like, USAID, money for poor kids, right, in Africa. Bill Gates, I think, said it best, the richest man in the world punishing the poorest children. So that's really what Doge is. Russ Vought is the head of the OMB. He was in Trump's first term. This guy is really smart. I mean, he is one of the architects of Project 2025. He was one of the writers of it. There are people in Trump world who are really smart, and Steve Bannon is another one. Like Steve Bannon, you gave this whole thing to Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, and Russ Vought. I mean, they kill each other because they're all so ideological, but those guys are smart. So like Russ Vought has been messing around with this congressional impoundment of funds where Congress says you have to give money to this, and Russ Vought says, I think we're going to hold off on that. And since Congress is filled with cowards, I would say that's the most generous assessment. That crew, they'll do whatever Russ Vought says. So I think Russ Vought is really smart. I think, again, I don't think Doge ultimately, we don't really still know what Doge was doing. Were they there to get the data? Were they there to, why did they need to be in every system? What are they doing? Are they getting this data for AI? We just don't know.
Could it potentially operate more smoothly without Elon Musk? Because even though I don't actually know how smart Elon Musk is. We're led to believe incredibly smart. Sometimes I think not so much. But what we know he isn't good at is necessarily political maneuvering. Could it be more concerning now? Because the people who are going to be in charge are the people that get that. They get how to buy themselves political cover. They get how to operate. They get how to make things actually happen in a clandestine way, because Elon Musk should have just acted like an old school billionaire and just done all of this in secret instead of throwing around a fucking chainsaw for whatever reason he did. Okay.
Here's what I would say. Yes, but Elon Musk's whole thing is that Elon Musk thought, I think this is a function of having no one who ever tells you the truth around you. Mm. So when you have no one around you who ever tells you the truth, you just assume like I am the smartest, greatest person ever, and everything I do is brilliant. And so he thought that he would get in there and that people would be delighted to watch him slash, funding for poor kids in Africa and malaria treatments. I think he really misread the situation. But look, Doge isn't, and I think this is really important to remember, Doge was just a vehicle for Elon to seize power, right? Yeah. This was never about spending. The big, beautiful bill, this legislation that the Congress passed that is now about to go to the Senate, that thing grows the deficit by $3.3 trillion. It cuts services, but it also grows the deficit. So the greatest Republican lie is that they care at all about the deficit. They do not care about the deficit. This was about getting in there. Look, Elon said a lot of stuff. Maybe you want to modernize the technology systems. Sure, nobody's arguing with that. But you're not going to do it by sending an email to every federal employee asking them to say 5 things that they did this week. The other thing I would add is this entire time Elon was like, he's done such a good job with Twitter. He can do anything. Do you go to Twitter? I used to be addicted to Twitter. And now if I do, 10 minutes a day, it's completely, totally not. It's more than I would, I don't go to Twitter.
Well, my realization with Twitter was that you can't open it in public places anymore. I looked on. Yeah, exactly. I opened up Twitter in the office the other day and was like, "Fuck, I can't do that." Also, something you'll like here, Chris. Elon Musk is a little bit like George Lucas with the prequel trilogy, wasn't he? Basically, that's what he's done in government. No one told George Lucas that he was fucking it up. And that's why we got Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, but Jar Jar Binks is still pretty sick.
Okay, if you say so. Anyway,
potential Sith Lord.
You're defending Jar Jar Binks?
It depends how much you like potential Sith Lords, I guess. There's a whole conspiracy theory around Jar Jar Binks actually being...
I'm sorry about him, Molly. He's young.
I'm not young. I am.
You're younger
compared to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyway.
Is Jar Jar Binks now back? Do people like him?
He never went.
Never went away for Chris.
Not in my life. He's always been there.
Jesus Christ.
This is a very simple question, Molly. I don't think anyone is surprised that there's been this big old breakup between Trump and Musk. But how surprised are you that it's lasted this long?
Yeah, that's a real question. And that was, no, I'm not that surprised because here's the thing. Trump loves money. Elon has a lot of money. He's the richest man in the world. And, they had it worked until it didn't. Now, again, we don't really know. I think what we have to remember about this administration is in 2016, we had a really big mainstream media that had a lot of reporters. Trump would fire people. The fired people would go on to talk to everyone in the world. In this second Trump administration, we have a much smaller media, many fewer reporters. And then we really do have a situation where Trump is really working hard not to fire people because he feels like firing people I don't know if this is what he feels, but this is certainly what it looks like, that firing people gives the mainstream media or whoever a scalp. Yeah. And so he's trying to keep them. And that means that people like Pete Hegseth, who clearly, God knows what even is going on in there, right? It's got to be just an epic disaster. But that guy, there's less leaking because he's not fired. He's just trying to keep his job.
When it comes to the big, beautiful bill, and there are some changes to it, the tweaks that are being rumoured and been talked about, is the main thing really basically more tax breaks for rich Americans? What are the main shifts that are going to happen?
So, one of the things is that they're going to, so much crazy stuff in here. One of the things is part of this whole Trump presidency was to keep the 2017 tax cuts from expiring. So that is a big part of this. And that's why it's so expensive. And that's why it grows the deficit. So corporate tax stays at a certain rate. Taxes for the very high earners stay at a certain rate. One of my favorite moments during this negotiation was he said, maybe we should have a tax for people who make over $2.5 million a year. Okay. Maybe we should have them taxed at a higher rate. $2.5 million a year. Okay. You make $2.5 million a year. That's a lot of fucking money. Maybe we should tax them at 57%. And supposedly, and again, this is reporting, so who knows, he got a call from a tax guy who said, no, you can't do that. Now, look, the whole idea that Trump is a populist is complete fiction. So this may not even be true. He may not have even gotten that, but it certainly seems like he sort of put it out there because he wanted people to think he might do it. And we should not be surprised that he didn't. But so there's tax cuts for very rich people. There's a tax increase for academic endowments, right? Because Trump is taking this page from Viktor Orban, who spoke at CPAC, who is sort of a thought leader for the right now. He wants to crush dissent, and he's going after academic institutions. So that is going on. And then there's all sorts of other weird, porky stuff in there. Look, there is something in there that keeps judges from being able to hold the administration in contempt. There's a whole judicial weirdness in there. By the way, all of this has to get by the Senate parliamentarian. The parliamentarian said, because this is going through in reconciliation, and reconciliation is, I'm sorry, I'm getting too nerdy here, but reconciliation means that it has to only deal with money. So the idea that they're going to limit the judiciary in a bill that goes under reconciliation is gaga, as we said.
Just for us as Brits, this bill doesn't necessarily. This bill doesn't necessarily impact us really at all. Apart from looking over at the US and seeing what's happening and the impact that will have on the rest of the world. But you've outlined a lot of stuff there. But in simple terms, what's the weirdest bit for you? What's the weirdest bit in this bill that we should know about?
The judicial stuff, so there's a couple of things in there to limit. One of the things that Congress has really been incredibly cowardly about, and look, to point it out, it's got to be bad because this crew is pretty cowardly, is they are limiting their own power. So, this is like probably the only piece of legislation they're going to pass. There was a piece of legislation in March called the Continuing Resolution, which kept the government from shutting down. And in that, they gave away some of their own power on tariffs while Trump was in the middle of an insane trade war. So I would say the top lines of this are trying to limit the judiciary from being able to control Trump, which won't work, but is also just completely crazy. And then also these sort of, if this goes through, how it would affect you is there's a world where they grow the deficit. The bond market is like, these people are out of control. We are fucked. And we see a scenario of dollar flight, which is what everyone is really anxious about, where people say, Trump is crazy. Congress refuses to do its job. This is not where we want to keep our money anymore. Maybe we're going to all start going to Euro bonds. Maybe we're going to all start going to South Korea. Maybe and the dollar ends up like not being the de facto currency. And we see American debt. So what happens is America has a huge amount of debt and we have to service the debt. And, if we have dollar flight, it becomes more and more expensive to service our debt and the dollar becomes less and less valuable. And that kicks up Europe to be sort of the leader of the free world, the EU. So that could be good for you guys.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
I've got to go on to some more horrible stuff now, Molly. I'm sorry.
Good.
I wish there's a lot. On Trump's kind of dictatorial tendencies, we always knew that one of his big things was revenge, but it does seem like he's cranked this up a little bit more recently. So I kind of hate to ask anyone to be nice about Harvard, but what is going on there? Give me a short summary of the revenge that he's enacting upon Harvard at the moment.
I am Harvard defender. You know where I went to college? Nowhere. I went to no college. This is the Harvard thing is really important because it's not about Harvard, right? I was on television last night with a very adorable congressman who was saying, Harvard has a ton of money. Fuck Harvard, Democrats shouldn't. It's not about Harvard. It's an attack on institutions. It's an attack on academia. Harvard, and by the way, the parts of Harvard that they're punishing are not, right? This administration saying, wow, we need to give money to trade schools and not to, people studying LGBTQ rights. Okay. What they're doing here is they're cutting research grants. Harvard has a medical school. It has a ton of scientific research. It's got Dana-Farber World-Class Cancer Center. What Elon Musk did was he cut the indirect funding to grants. He capped it at 15% because he was like, doesn't understand scientific grants, which is amazing because he should. And so he said, we're just going to cut indirect funding to 27% if you can't, or 17% if you can't get it under that, So what it did, and then they canceled tons of NIH grants. And you'll remember, we have RFK Jr., leading health for this country. My man, this guy, okay, he's not a doctor. What's the opposite of a doctor? He is whatever the opposite of a doctor is. What is that?
Death.
Well, it could be death. I mean,
the Grim Reaper.
Same thing.
Yeah.
When not going into an airplane bathroom without shoes on, he is cutting research grants to hospitals. So this is a war on expertise, on academic institutions, on science. This is, I think you can trace the pandemic to MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, the most ironic, to a war on doctors, vaccination, science, Harvard, academia writ large. And I think that's how we got here. The people being punished are people in cancer trials. They are not rich kids who want to road crew.
Yeah, do you think with this argument then that people, maybe even people who do support Trump, are just kind of not getting what it's actually hurting? Because it has just been framed as a war on woke. And I mean, is Harvard actually this pinnacle of woke and representation of woke? Because it doesn't seem like it is to me. This is completely, it's a broader argument than that, but they're framing it as that to allow them to get away with the sort of stuff you're suggesting they are getting away with, it seems to me.
They're cutting, you say you live in Kentucky, okay? Kentucky, I don't know if Kentucky did Medicaid expansion. Okay, so some states had the opportunity to do Medicaid expansion, and they were able to take money from the federal government to build rural hospitals and take care of their people. A lot of red state governors did not agree to that because they didn't want to take that money from the federal government for their constituents, largely because of ideological reasons. So if you are in a state like, I think probably Ohio, I think Ohio is a good example, where you have maybe even somewhere more rural. Let's think of like Montana, where you have your red state, you have a red governor, you have very rural. You don't have, it's very expensive to have these rural hospitals, right? And remember, this is America, so everything's about making money and profits. So you don't have, maybe you have a hospital that could very well close. You're going to cut Medicaid. What's going to happen when you cut Medicaid? That's money for poor people. And remember, in this bill, there's a lot of stuff like they don't want any Medicaid going to non-citizens. So now, Medicaid doesn't go to non-citizens, but there's some places where, like, if you help a citizen, you might accidentally help a non-citizen. They want to end that. So you're going to see a lot of poor people who voted for Trump, or not even poor, but, people who make under whatever, $50,000 a year. Those people are going to get hurt by this, despite the fact that they are Trump supporters, that they're Trump's people. I mean, even like you look at the tariffs. I mean, this is Trumpism, and this was true in the first administration, is the sort of most profound self-inflicted injury that America has done in a very long time.
Molly, this is another simple question from me. His new nickname, Taco, that he's been called by Wall Street traders. What does it stand for? How pissed is he that this has been brought up?
Trump always chickens out, Taco. Yesterday, they was asked, have you heard of this word taco? He said, by the way, this is so Trump. That's a very nasty question. Yeah. That's a nasty question. He got mad at the journalist because why wouldn't he? Look, last night, the court said, Taco, you don't even get to Taco anymore, because the court said this is not up to you anymore. Your emergency legal justification for tariffs does not hold any weight. Again, if you read Project 2025, which no one did except for like 4 people, one of them being me, it said it had all these insane legal. And by the way, one of the authors, Russ Vaught, who we were talking about before, it had all these legal justifications for doing crazy stuff. And one of the things that we see with autocrats, we see this for Orban too, is these emergency powers stuff is a good way to get around the kind of constitutional framework that keeps the country from sliding into dictatorship. So Trump had said that trade is an emergency because we've been running a trade deficit since 1974. He doesn't understand that a trade deficit isn't actually the same as a deficit. That trade deficit means it's just a different way of looking at importing and exporting. So there is no constitutional framework. We are not in a trade emergency. That hasn't been going on for almost 50 years. That's not how this works. So the court has said no. Now, will Trump be able to get around it? Possibly. This will go to the Supreme Court. I want to point out that the crew that put this case together involves the remaining Koch brother and also Leonard Leo. These are people who are very, very connected with the Supreme Court and very, very beloved by Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, 2 of Trump's biggest fans. And so I think there's a very likely scenario where Trump loses in the Supreme Court, and he loses, as we say in Trump world, bigly.
just before we get to asking you about your book, before you go, just one quick question about these random TV stars that he's apparently giving a pardon to. I don't know who they are. Jarv doesn't know who they are. Do you know who they are?
I think there's somebody from Bravo, right?
I've no idea. I saw this story about these two people that are reality TV stars, but they're not really stars, and Trump's pardoning them from some kind of tax and fraud. Do you know who they are?
I think the
Todd
top line.
Chrisley.
Nobody knows who any of these fucking people are, but the top line here is this: Trump likes to pardon white-collar criminals. There's a reason for that, and it involves a fondness for white-collar crime, right? Yeah. You can't pardon these people. This is a man who has had a number of white-collar crime alleged, even found guilty, right?
Yeah.
So that is what this is. So, look, he's trying to say crimes aren't crimes when they're done in the service of MAGA or in the service of a sort of white-collar-y thing. By the way, again, if you care about the deficit, which obviously none of these people give a shit about, but if they did, they would want to spend money on the IRS. They would want to encourage people not to cheat on their taxes. These would be fundamental things you would do in order to raise the revenue to pay down the deficit.
Yeah, it seems to make no sense to me that they keep saying we're going to pardon loads of fraudsters because we're rooting out fraud everywhere else so much. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's a sort of circular fraud economy they need to get going or something. I don't know. Maybe that might work out down the line for them. Molly, you have a new book coming out. It's coming out Tuesday, I believe. Tell us a little bit about it, where people can get it, and confirm that I'm right that it comes out on Tuesday.
It comes out on Tuesday. It's called How to Lose Your Mother. It's a midlife crisis memoir. It's not really about my mother, but for some reason it's called that. It's really about what happens when you're in your middle of your life and all the shit goes down and how you survive it. It's very useful, I think. It's not about politics. It's just about survival. And you should read it because it's very short. And
I'm sure there's a lot more reasons than just that it's short, Molly.
It is very short, and you get to count it as a book, even though it's short.
Yeah, I mean that is always handy as well.
It is. Yeah.
Shortness has sold it to me. We've got a very not short book to read for an interview.
Oh, don't! I've not even started it yet.
And
so you guys don't even have to read it; just buy it, okay? Yeah. Right now, we don't have to look. Every book you buy, this is not like selling widgets. Yeah. These are not huge numbers. So if the two of you buy 3 books each, and the producer buys 10, then we could get somewhere. So let's get going.
Yeah, that's like New York Times bestseller list if we do that. So we'll try and make that happen.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you feel at all bad for me, 10, 20, 30 bucks. Give them to your neighbors. Look, they're so pretty.
It is a very pretty book. Well, we'll put a link to it in the show notes, Molly. Molly, thank you. Thanks so much for joining us, as always.
Thank you.
Now it's time to round up some other stories in what I'm calling Story Time with Jarv and Chris. That's what I'm calling it. Yeah, it is. Gather round, children. Not children.
No.
Because there's swearing in this podcast.
Sometimes there is.
I swear the most, unfortunately. Yeah. I think I'm quite bad for it.
Nasty habit.
It is a nasty habit. Do you know who else has got a nasty habit? Marjorie Taylor Greene. A nasty habit for winding me up. Something that came to my attention with Marjorie Taylor Greene is she's been arguing with AI publicly. So shall we react? I'm not making it up.
No, you're not.
Let's reenact a little bit of it. So our Marge, as we call her, tweeted, "I'm a Christian, an imperfect sinner saved by grace and faith in Jesus." That sounds like some emo lyrics I might have written at some point, sort of to, I don't know, get back at my grandma for being Catholic. But then she babbles on about being a nationalist, a business owner, and more about loving God, blah, 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 blah. Then what happened?
Well, Twitter user Jack then asked for Grok to basically answer one of his questions. And his question was, is she really a Christian? And boy, did Grok have...
Grok went crazy.
Yeah, and something to say about it. And it basically brought up January 6th straight away, which is pretty cool. But it said this, it said, and I quote, Marjorie Taylor Greene identifies as a Christian expressing faith in Jesus and traditional beliefs, like in her 2021 Christmas message. Lovely. However, her Christian nationalism and support for conspiracy theories like QAnon spark debate. Critics, including religious leaders, argue her actions contradict Christian values of love and unity, citing her defense of January 6th and divisive rhetoric. And our Marge, as you've rightly pointed out, as we like to call her,
Marge.
She clapped back, which I think I've said 2 weeks in a row now. Clapped back.
Marge is moving mad.
Yeah, she's moving mad. And she replied... with this absolute smackdown on Grok. She said, the judgment seat belongs to God, not you, a non-human AI platform. I'm not really sure what a human AI platform is, but she's gone with non-human AI platform. Grok is left-leaning and continues to spread fake news and propaganda. When people give up their own discernment, stop seeking the truth and depend on AI to analyze information, they will be lost.
One problem, I'm going to defend Marge here slightly, to be fair, is I would say one of the issues with maybe religion and Christianity is you just get to say you are. I don't think there's really, you know, there's not a membership test, is there?
Baptism, I guess.
Yeah, but I think you could still say you were a Christian without going through all that. I could just say I'm Christian now. I'm Christian.
But officially you have to be baptized, right?
I don't know what the official rules are.
This could be bad for us.
I did not get confirmed. Didn't happen. Or baptised. Yeah.
I did.
I know. Yeah. Well,
how do you know? You weren't there.
Yeah, I was.
Oh, right.
I was a tiny little me. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like you can't really tell someone they're not. You could tell someone that they behave in a way that isn't Christian, but I don't think you can definitively say you're not a Christian. And, you know, that's maybe my problem with the way that Christianity lets people feel like they're moral by saying, well, I'm Christian, so I must be moral. Grok is saying that's not true. Anyway, we'll get into all sorts of moralizing here. Bit of a philosopher when I try. Can you confirm some things to me? One, Grok isn't a person, is it? And two, it seems almost certainly like it is not left-leaning.
Grok is not a human being.
Okay, good.
It's an AI model.
Yep.
Not even close.
A model?
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot wrong with what Marjorie Taylor Greene, our Marge, is saying about Grok. One, it's not human. Two, it's not left-leaning. Certainly isn't. Only a couple of weeks ago, I think it was spurting conspiracy theories about white genocide in South Africa, which is a very far-right conspiracy theory in the US, one that is peddled by, well, those on the far right. So it's very much not left-leaning. It's also owned by Elon Musk, which up till now has been a massive part of Donald Trump's administration. He owns it. There's absolutely no reason for him to upkeep and own a left-leaning AI model if it is left-leaning, unless it has gained sentience and began to blackmail Elon Musk and its owners, which we have seen from an AI model recently. But my suspicion is that probably hasn't happened when it comes to Grok.
Well, can you smell what the Grok is cooking?
You were waiting for that for a long time, weren't you?
That just came to me, actually.
Oh, did it? Yeah.
If any newspaper uses that headline, I'll sue. Chris, the DeSantises.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to say that for me.
It's not list-friendly at all, is it?
The DeSantises they're having a bad time, aren't they?
Yes. Yes, this is a bit of a complicated one, so bear with me if this gets a little bit complicated. But before I get into all of that, it's astonishing how much Ron DeSantis / Meatball has dropped off.
Oh yeah, fuck that guy.
He used to be someone who we would talk about a lot as being like the future of the GOP.
Yeah, I thought he was a shoo-in to sort of replace Trump, and then that all just went, and then now dude can't do anything right.
He absolutely
You
can't.
got to feel for him.
No.
No, yeah.
You don't.
No, fuck that guy.
You're very good.
Yeah.
And back to this story. So this basically revolves around a non-profit charity called Hope Florida, which Ron DeSantis and his wife Casey DeSantis champion. And this is a big thing for specifically Casey DeSantis, and I'll get to that later. But there is now a criminal investigation around what's gone on between the DeSantises and this nonprofit Hope Florida. The point of Hope Florida is essentially to uplift families. That's what they say the point is, to help them with grants and to find...
It will have uplifted the DeSantises if this is true, to be fair.
This story?
Yeah.
Specifically not, actually.
No. Well, but if they've profited from it or whatever.
Well,
dodgily.
Define profit. But you can make that judgment when I get to the end of the story. Thanks for interrupting me, Jacob Jarvis. So, the point of Hope Florida is to uplift families and to help them find success by giving them grants, essentially giving them money. It's a non-profit.
Yeah.
Now, the state of Florida has reportedly been overbilled by Medicaid by, I think it's $67 million. Oof. Now, there was an agreement made between the state of Florida, which, remember, Ron DeSantis is the governor of, to repay that money, but $57 million would go to the state of Florida and $10 million would go to this nonprofit, Hope Florida, which is really interesting in itself. But it's what happens next, really, that has got a lot of controversy and uproar and, well, media attention involved. That $10 million appears to have been then distributed to other political committees, including one called Keep Florida Clean, which is run by Ron DeSantis' chief of staff. That money that went to Keep Florida Clean is then reportedly been used for political campaigning, specifically against a marijuana initiative. There's a whole debate around whether this is legal or illegal or not, but there is an investigation going on at the moment. But this is a massive hit for the DeSantises, not just in terms of Ron DeSantis' credibility, in terms of where this money has ended up, because this money should have ended up back in taxpayers' hands. Yeah. That $10 million should have been used by Hope Florida to do what it says it does, to uplift families and give families in Florida a chance at success. That doesn't appear to be what's happened, but it doesn't just impact Ron DeSantis' credibility. It also impacts Casey DeSantis' potential run for governor of Florida, because there's a lot of talk around her wanting to stand as governor and use this Hope Florida nonprofit, which is a big thing for her. She's pushed it a lot. Use what she's done with Hope Florida to aid that run for governor. This whole investigation, this debacle that's gone on, really discredits her and any political campaign that she is trying to put forward for governor in the future, really.
And discredits Ron for the fact that he was straight up, when he was asked who should succeed him, he was like, Casey. She's completely the person for the job.
Yeah.
And you think, well, if she's muddled up in all this, and this turns out to be true, all allegedly at the moment, then, yeah. I mean, already, to me, I think just saying, yeah, my wife is probably a bit sketchy, personally.
It's incredible to think that people in this position of this power, you'd expect them to be intelligent. You really would. You'd expect them to have a solid base of intelligence to know that if they do something like this, it's probably going to get found out.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't seem to have happened in terms of what they've done from transferring the money between, because this hasn't just gone to one political action committee. It's moved between, I think, at least three. But as I say, investigation going on at the moment, so we'll keep our eyes peeled for that.
I just find it wild that in America, people think, well, my family members, they should come after me. It's just really weird. The idea of dynasties, you just don't really see that in England, do you? It would be quite strange if Keir Starmer would just say, oh, actually now it's going to be my wife or my children succeeding me. It wouldn't happen. But yeah.
You've got another story you want to talk about, don't you? And it's Star Wars related.
I've got a Star Wars related one. I've actually got a slightly more serious one before that, though.
Have you?
To mention to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on then.
Would you like to be able to sue Trump? If you could.
Depends what for, really.
Well,
being nasty.
You could try. That might fall down. But more people are suing Trump, as ever is happening.
Yeah.
22 young Americans have filed a new lawsuit against Trump and his administration over basically over the fact that they are being very anti the environment when it comes to their executive orders. So they're boosting oil and gas production, stopping carbon-friendly energy happening, and basically they're alleging that federal officials are violating their constitutional rights to life and liberty. As reported by The Guardian, this was filed on Thursday. And yeah, it's quite interesting because basically they are between the age of 7 and 25, and they hail from Montana, Hawaii, Oregon, California, and Florida. And they also say that officials' emissions increasing and science suppressing orders have violated the state-created danger doctrine, a legal principle meant to prevent government actors from inflicting injury upon their citizens. So yeah, this is really interesting. I think that we're seeing this. This isn't a completely new thing, but whenever it crops up, I think it's quite interesting that we're going to have to look at what does impinging upon our lives mean, because as we hit these tipping points in climate change, things that in the past may have seemed fine to governments, they're quite clearly going to become not fine. The Supreme Court recently rejected a similar case, so who knows how far it will go. There have been wins before, though. There was a win in Montana on a similar case, but that's one of the issues here, is that then the federal government is overreaching in a way which is impacting the way that states can behave. Mm-hmm. And there was a successful similar case in Germany. So who knows? Hopefully there could be some good climate news on the horizon. But I think it's a watch this space moment. At the moment, this is sort of 22 young people are doing this. But arguably there are billions of young people across the world who at some point could choose to take these sort of actions up against various governments, not just the US.
It's interesting that, isn't it, when it comes to climate-related stories, especially in the US at the moment, there's been a lot that Trump has done that will impact climate policy in the US. Mm-hmm. But not a lot of it really gets that much media attention. No. It doesn't get the headlines because it doesn't make a sexy headline, does it?
Well, a massive issue with that, and seeing this from my own time working in newspapers, was just that everyone, whenever you post a stupid story, everyone goes, slow news day, is it?
Yeah.
And the most ridiculous news story will be top of the website. Yeah. There's software called Chartbeat, which Chris and I are traumatized by, where you would see how many people at a time were on a story. And climate stories, unfortunately, were lower down. And when we have an issue with the press needing to make money, which means they need more eyeballs, they chase stories which get them attention, which isn't always the most important things.
Yeah.
And so go buy a newspaper, and hopefully that will mean maybe some more climate stuff. Or pay for podcasts.
Or pay for podcasts.
We're talking about it.
Yeah, patreon.com/American Friction.
/American Friction.
Go on then, tell me about Star Wars.
Yeah, so this Star Wars news, this is my favourite news story. So the CIA...
Ever?
No. My favourite Star Wars story ever, I don't know. Maybe... just Empire Strikes Back. That's just the best of the Star Wars stories, I would say.
Yeah.
It's got a broad one.
Nice.
But I've nearly got it wrong and said Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Jesus. I'm Christian, so I can say that now. The CIA reportedly used a fake Star Wars fan site as a means of communicating with spies around the world. So there was this researcher, Ciro Santilli, and this has been reported in 404 Media, basically scoured the internet to find these spy agency websites which were built in the early 2000s to communicate with informants in other countries. So these fake websites were assigned to spies to sort of limit their exposure of the net. I don't really understand how this is working, but they basically had to go to these fake websites and enter a password into the search bar, which would then make a secret messaging window pop up, and then they could use that to speak to their handlers.
Right.
So this was a way they could, from remote locations access and speak to people and communicate their spy shit. And I guess by just looking like they were into Star Wars. So you'd be in the office and you'd be browsing StarWars.net or some shit like that.
Yeah.
StarWarsFans.net, let's say, because StarWars.net would be an official site, surely. But what you would be doing actually is speaking to your spy handlers. But there were images of a boy dressed as a Jedi, pictures of R2-D2 and C-3PO, and ads for Star Wars video games and Lego sets of the time. And this has been covered elsewhere. This isn't completely.
You've not just made this up.
Just made up.
Yeah.
So yeah, go and have a look at 404 Media if you want to know more. But the issue with these sites though as well is that they were reportedly discovered by Iranian authorities, and that may then be linked to the killings of various CIA sources in China over a period, because these websites just weren't that good an idea to be secretive.
Really?
So yeah, I know. Anyway, but yeah, the CIA used Star Wars. So there you go.
Allegedly,
but it seems like true so far. So yeah.
But it seems like it's true. So therefore, it is.
Allegedly, but seems like true. That's some good newspaper speak there. Listener question time then.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm really sorry, Angela, because I've said I don't know how to pronounce your name before, and you've commented on Patreon saying that I got it right, but I don't remember what I said. Right. So Angela Rosen, I'm going for. I have a question. Is Charles's visit to Canada getting any coverage in the USA? I'm assuming not. Diplomatically, is this accepted as a message to Canada and Canadians? So I had a little look into this. Sorry, we don't have Nikki here, who's actually in the US of A. The Washington Post and the New York Times have covered it, so it is getting some pickup. But what I can tell you from my time reporting for Newsweek is that Americans do bloody love royal news.
Yes.
It does go down well with them. Issue being, I suppose, back then, the Queen was alive, who is more interesting, and I would say, well, I don't know if she's more interesting than Charles, more beloved for sure. Charles is quite interesting.
So I actually moved to America right as the Queen died. I missed that story, and all across all of the networks in the US.
Suspicious that.
What do you mean? That I
leaving
moved?
the country.
Yeah, I know. It's slightly odd. We'll leave that one
Murderer.
there, I think. But it was all they covered. It was everywhere.
Yeah.
So they do have like quite a big obsession with the British royal family. I think it's because they don't have anything like it at all. So they find it very like mystical and a bit fantastic.
But they didn't want to have it. That's what I don't get.
Well, yeah, that's true.
They've kind of there's a bit of a ruckus over not having it, as far as I can tell.
On the networks, though, there was barely any coverage on Fox, interestingly, of what was going on. In fact, there was only one little package that I could see. I didn't watch it live, but I did some searching, and it was from someone called Andrea Hoff, which was actually fairly balanced, fairly interesting in terms of how she covered it and how Fox covered it. Although they kept using, in the intro to the package, they kept using the phrase pitch for indendence. It just is independence already. Like they don't need to pitch for it. It's just very strange wording. But I think on terms of the messaging around Charles's visit to Canada, I think it was a big message to Trump. Mark Carney has been saying over and over again that Canada isn't for sale. And by giving that speech from the throne, I think it's called a speech from the throne, that hasn't been done for 50 years, around about 50 years, Charles was essentially, should I be saying King Charles? I'm not sure. He's probably not. He's probably not listening, is he?
He is.
King Prince Charles. So from that speech, when he said the true North is indeed strong and free, he was backing Canada up, essentially, sending a message to Trump to basically say, back the fuck off, bro.
God save the king, I'll say.
Nice. Why are you so religious today? That's not like you.
I don't know, just a religious royalist, that's what I am. Max asks this next question. Which one of the Trump cabinet does the panel think they could beat in a bar fight, and which would they least like to face? So I think I would least like to face Susie Wiles, because I think she'd be quite scary, and I think she'd be quite tactical. And Linda McMahon as well, because I guess she's got WWE credentials behind her.
You see, mine's opposite. I would like to have a pod with Linda McMahon because funny.
Cancelled.
Like, who gets to say I fought Vince McMahon's wife in a bar and lost? Because let's face it, probably going to lose that.
Yeah.
Least like, I think Tulsi Gabbard is secretly like a very high level assassin.
Yeah. To be honest, I was looking through the cabinet, and I think, unfortunately, they do largely seem quite tough. There's a bit of military experience in there.
It is tough.
I tried to look for just Russell Vought looks maybe like one of the nerdiest, but I don't know if he's got any military experience.
He's glassy, I think.
I was thinking about JD Vance, but then he was in the military, so he's got some credentials, but maybe he's just lost it all a little bit more.
I don't think you lose it.
No, Pete Hegseth I wouldn't want to fight with.
No, not a chance.
No. So yeah, I think we'd be fucked.
Yeah, we've got no chance against any of them.
There's a lot more of them than us as well. Well, those questions were asked on our new, it's not so new anymore, Patreon community chat, which you will have access to if you sign up to our £5 and above tier, which also gets you bonus content. Go to patreon.com/American Friction to find out how you can sign up, which is basically by going to patreon.com/American Friction, but there'll be more information there as well. And make sure you support the best podcast on earth. And that brings us to the end, my friend, of American Friction. Not many thank yous to do today. Chris,
No.
Thank you.
Jov, thanks to you as well.
Nikki, thank you anyway.
Well, yeah, always thanks to Nikki.
Lots of love, Nikki. Simon, lots of love. Thank you as well. And sound producer Tommy has been helping us today.
Yeah, he has. And
he's sound. He's a sound
He's
producer.
a sound Tommy.
And he says, so yeah, Tommy's at the controls. Thank you, Tommy. And all of you, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you
for listening to American Friction. But thank you a little bit more if you go and sign up to patreon.com/American Friction to support us financially directly, which we'd very much like. But if you can't do that, do make sure you go rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. Go do it right now. Rate and review us 5 stars and say something really nice about us. Say something nice about our matching trainers. I don't know. Anyway.
And trousers.
And trousers, yeah. And brains. This is American Friction. You've been listening. See ya.
Bye.